In this video, I will teach you 10 traps to win your opponent's queen. Every trap in this video will be for a different opening, so you will almost be able to use them in every game you play. So let's start with the first trap. White will start with knight f3 and black will respond with d5. Then you will play e4, which looks like you blundered a pawn. Black will happily take your pawn with tempo attacking your knight. But you will play knight to g5 attacking his pawn on e4 and also putting pressure on the pawn on f7 at the same time. Black cannot attack your knight by playing h6 because you will win his hanging pawn on e4, so black will defend his pawn by playing knight to f6, which is also a normal developing move. But you will offer him another pawn trade, and most of the time black will accept the trade because his pawn is already weak. After he takes, you will take back with the bishop. But now black is finally able to kick your knight by playing h6, because you are not attacking his pawn on e4 anymore. And believe it or not, black is already totally lost in this position because of the shocking sacrifice knight takes f7, forking the queen and the rook, so black is forced to take the knight with the king. And now you will be winning after bishop g6 checking the king and attacking the queen at the same time. And after black takes your bishop, you will win his queen and continue playing having a queen for 2 pieces, which is easily winning. Your queen will be also very active putting pressure on his back rank. And you have too much space, so you can easily develop all of your pieces and outplay him. This trap is in the Italian game, after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. In this position you can start acting like you are thinking for a while, and then play knight d4, pretending that you want to trade knights. But now white will notice that he can get a free pawn instead of trading knights. This move also puts pressure on your f7 pawn by white's knight and bishop. But now white is already lost in this position. After you play queen to g5, you will attack his knight and pawn at the same time. Now white will play knight to f7 forking your rook and queen, but it does not matter anymore, because after playing queen takes g2, you are already threatening checkmate, because the knights is covering the e2 square. And after white plays rook to f1, you will capture the pawn on e4 checking his king. And now the only move for white is to give up his queen for free. And after he takes back, you will take his knight and be up a full queen. And if he covers up with the bishop instead, you will checkmate him by playing knight to f3 because his pieces is smothering his king. This trap is against d4 players. After d4, d5, c4, you will surprise your opponent by playing the move e5 counter attacking the center. Now white will usually take the free pawn. Now you will play pawn to d5, stopping white from developing his knight and his pawn. So white will try to get rid of the pawn and play e3 wanting to trade and put pressure on your pawn. Now you will play bishop to b4 checking his king. And after he blocks with the bishop thinking that you will trade bishops or protect your bishop. But instead you will shock him by playing the brilliant move pawn takes e3. And now white will think that you blundered, because he can take a free bishop. But after he takes you will play pawn takes f2 checking his king. And he can't take your pawn because you will win his queen for free, so instead he will play king to e2. Now in this position if you play bishop to g4 he will cover with his knight. So to get rid of his knight you will take his knight with the pawn and promote to a knight so he is forced to take back. But now white has 2 options, go to e1 with the king or take your knight with the rook, and at both variations you are winning. So if he takes your knight with the rook, you will play bishop to g4 and win his queen and then win the game. But if he goes back to e1 with the king, you will play queen to h4 check. And after he covers with the pawn, you will play queen to e4 forking the rook, and the king after he covers with the bishop you will take it with the knight, and after he takes back you will win his rook with tempo checking his king, and you will be up 8 points of material and win the game. This trap is in the Scandinavian defense, so after e4 d5 you will play knight c6 offering him a trade, but if he declines and plays pawn to d4 you will just retreat the knight and play defensively. But if he accepts the trade you will immediately play bishop to c4. Now he will protect his pawn with the knight, and now you will offer him another trade by playing e3. And after he takes you will play knight f3 playing gambit style, and because your opponent is used to your dumb play, he will take on c2. But now the game is over for black, because you will play bishop takes f7, and he is forced to take your bishop, and you will win his queen for free. This trap is against the king's gambit. After e4 e5 f4 you will play d5, and after white takes you will offer him another pawn by playing c6, and after he takes it you will take back with the knight. Now white will play knight f3 to stop the queen from coming to h4. Now you will push your pawn to e4 kicking his knight, and after he goes to e5 you will play bishop to c5 to prevent white from castling on the king's side. Now white will play bishop to b5 pinning your knight to the king and also putting pressure on it with the knight. And now instead of defending the knight you will ignore it and play knight f6. And after white takes your knight you will take back with a pawn. After he takes with the bishop forking the king and the rook you will cover the king with the bishop. And if white takes the rook he is lost, because after the move bishop to g4 his queen is trapped and you will win it in the next move. This trap is for stronger players, and I will show you why. After d4 knight f6 c4 you will play the move e5 giving up a free pawn. After white takes you will play knight to e4. Now the most common move for white is knight f3. And no, you will play the move b6 pretending that you want to place the bishop on b7. But your opponent needs to be strong enough to spot the move queen to d5 forking the knight and the rook. Now you will play bishop to b7. And after white takes the bishop you will play knight to c6 putting the queen in a cage. So now white has to play the move queen to a3. Otherwise you will play knight to c5 winning his queen. So after queen to a3 you will play bishop to b4 check. And after white blocks with the bishop you will play knight to c5. Now white's only move is queen to b5. Now you will trade bishops and then play pawn to a3 trapping his queen. This knight covers these two squares, and this knight covers these two squares, and the queen is trapped. This trap is against d4. After d4 you will play e5, and when white takes you will play bishop to c5. Now the most common move is knight f3. Then you will offer him another pawn on d6. And after he takes it is very important to play very fast, so your opponent thinks you removed the move knight to e2. And after he takes the game is over for white, and I will leave this move for you to find. Type the answer in the comment section down below.